Welcome back, guys. It's Monday. It feels like I'm back so soon. 4th of July was pretty fun. I don't know if you guys did anything super cool, but I got some good food, some good relaxing, and tried to make sure my dog wasn't panicking because the fireworks were going off. Maybe that sounds kind of like your 4th of July. Anyway, we're back at it. Today's the first day where I get to start welding the manifold parts up for the 350Z Project Raven. And I couldn't really find a source for the outlet flanges, you know, like the header flanges. I think in the future, if I end up getting like a plasma table, I'll be able to just cut out my own flanges. But I don't really know that anybody actually sells them, which is kind of annoying. So for now, I'm just going to do kind of like what we did on Panda's car and just go ahead and reuse the factory flanges. I mean, they're stainless, they fit good, they're nice and thick, so I can sand them after I weld them if they warp or do anything weird. But yeah, I'm basically going to cut those off, reduce them to the correct size immediately, and then start you know, building our crossover pieces, our Y-pipe, and get this manifold going. I've got the time to show my love what it's all about. Fading up, fading down below the laser guns. I've got a heart that has been traumatized. Don't wake me up, don't wake me up, my dreams can never lie. Don't leave me alone, I got so much more to give. Don't leave me alone. Okay guys, I got these flanges all cleaned up like you just saw, and I wanted to show you the first piece that we're going to be welding to them. These are some 304 stainless reducers. This one's a little bit longer. It goes from 2 inch to 2.5 or 2 1/4, whatever it says this is. And then this one is a little bit smaller, but this one will be used when we go up into the turbo later on. So I've got 2 of these for our headers and 1 of these for going up into the T3 flange. I'm gonna go ahead and cut these up, get it all fitted, and start fitting it on the car right now. It's hard to remember what you forgot. Okay, I didn't really get a lot filmed yesterday. I just was cranking out some welding on the Z project. But let me show you guys where I got. So basically, I got the crossover pipe finished. Let the camera adjust and see if you guys can see this really quick. Okay, so up in here, obviously I added a flex and some nice mandrel bends that go under. And then I was able to get them to merge right into here. And the next part will be obviously bringing, like, can you see it where it ends? Yeah, so right about here I need to add like a bend to go up, and this is where it transitions from 2 to 2 1/4, so it goes up in size slightly, and I'll be adding a V-band. Alright guys, current update. So we saw the crossover pipe, the Y-pipe is all done, and I put a V-band connection at the end of it before it comes under the area where the power steering and the motor mount is. And now we've come in front of the AC, and we just got to plumb the part that goes up to the turbo. So as you're figuring now, like, this is exactly the same as how Turbonetics routes it, more or less, and how like the Rev9 kit, that's like the cheapest current kit, I think. Really similar. So we're not like reinventing the wheel here or anything, we're just kind of running it the same way. I think the biggest change to this whole kit was simply the intercooler routing, and we'll see if that helps, you know, shorten some piping, put a very effective intercooler, and then not have to run the intercooler piping down through the accessory area, so that it'll still leave us room to do other things that are needed for boost, and we'll get into that later. But like, obviously you can't put like an oil catch can or anything in this area if you have boost piping there, so we're definitely gonna have to do something about that. So you can see the outlet, it comes around over the cross member and just kind of angles up, giving us enough room in this area over here for the oil return still. And then this will be a V-band connection, you know, so it'll just clamp on, and this will turn and go up to the actual turbo itself. One of the harder things about doing a turbo kit is simply just nailing turbo placement. If you put it a little bit one way or the other and the downpipe doesn't fit, turbo lines and oil feed and return don't work, or the boost outlet won't work in the right spot. So you gotta really, take your time at this particular junction. So anyway, right now I'm tacking up this piece, which is a transition to T3. So that'll be to actually hold the turbo itself, and then I'll be able to plumb up to that. So now that we got this, we'll clean this up real quick and we'll go back to fabrication. Yesterday I got to the point where we were up to the T3 flange. So I've done the crossover pipe, the Y together, and I've done the piece that goes through the motor mount and then comes up to the bottom in here. You can see the V-band down there. And then from that piece comes up with a T3 and sets the turbo right in this general area. So today is pretty exciting because now we can start doing some more of the actual plumbing. We can work on getting the intercooler piping over to the turbo and start finishing up the setup in general. So we're gonna actually add the wastegate right in this area, so it'll just shoot down on the ground, atmospheric. So we're gonna go ahead and set up the wastegate right now, and then we can figure out how to weld it onto here. All right, so I'm just adding the wastegate flange to this up pipe, and then we'll have the spot for it to vent off boost so we can regulate. Basically, once this is on, we can set the turbo and see what that looks like and start working on intercooler piping. Okay, so I'm just drilling the oil return hole into the upper pan half, basically. That way we can return the oil out of the turbo. Most of the other stuff is fitted. We started fitting obviously some of the intercooler piping, and the turbo manifold is all completely done. The wastegate's fitted. So basically this is it. We're just running oil lines, and then as far as the turbo system is concerned, it's pretty much done other than the other boost pipes. Just clamping down this oil line on our oil return fitting, and then we can silicone and go ahead and put the lower pan back on. But it's pretty cool. If you tap it correctly, it just comes right through the pan. Pretty nice. Guys, so we're back, and I just ran to the mail really quick to get these 350Z gaskets, and these are the best header gasket I have ever seen. That's not a factory gasket. All the cheap aftermarket gaskets, that you guys get with your test pipes and everything else, they're just those cheap papery tinfoil looking garbage gaskets. I can't even bend this if I tried. It's super thick and looks just like the stock one. Sound like a commercial for this gasket, but it was they were $9 or $10 each and $8 to ship them in, and they're made by Molly Cleveite, and they're freaking fantastic, debatably better than factory. So I just thought I would mention them, because any of you start your car and you hear that little tick, the little gasket leak right between the header and the downpipe, I absolutely hate that noise as an exhaust person. So let me see, let's zoom in on this for a second, so in case you guys need one. Pretty cool part. I'm glad I found it. Alright, so I just got done installing these Injector Dynamics 1000cc injectors, and they give you the little supplied pigtails that you can actually crimp the ends and put them on, but I don't really like those so much, so I always get these things, and these are basically they're just little adapters. And they're fantastic. They just clip on. There's no wiring in between them. A lot of the adapters actually have two little wire strands, and it's a one end and another end adapter, and they're big and they're bulky and they're ugly, and yeah, I hate them. So we use these kind around here, and they work super good. That's the Denso end over to the Injector Dynamics end, so works pretty good. You can just find these online. But anyway, pretty awesome. Go ahead and stick the rest of these on here. Hey guys, what's up? It's Saturday. We got a little bit of a change of pace. We're going over to a customer's house because his friend helped him tear apart his SR20, and they've just been really backed up and busy and haven't got a chance to put it back together yet. So they've got the new parts, and basically I'm just going over there to make sure they kind of get the engine assembled correctly. I I used to actually do that for a lot of years at my regular job, which was in a machine shop back a very long time ago. So I've put together probably more motors than I can count, to be honest. And for the heck of it, I brought Jonathan.
Hey, buddy.
Because he was at the shop already anyway, and he wanted to come check it out too. So let's take a look at this SR20 and see how it goes. Guys, check it out. So customer disassembled his SR20, and there's a few things that are kind of interesting about these cars, and one of them is the fact that they have a bunch of shims that sit on top of the valve stems. And I'm noticing right now that on the ground we have these shims that have just fallen out kind of carelessly, which sucks for two reasons. A, because they're like measured in millimeters specifically to get a few thousandths clearance on the valve to like cam setup. So if they're out of whack a little bit, it's kind of hard to get them back in. You have to like either machine the head or do some other stuff, or you just have to sit and measure and swap them around until you get the right sizes. Anyway, we'll have to find all these shims off the ground really quick. SR20 is like, it's not a complicated motor, it's just a small little 4-cylinder, but it is kind of one that if you've never done before, it might throw you for a loop because there's a few different things that don't normally exist. So, all right, I'm gonna clean this up really quick and see if I can help them out. All right, so basically decided to take all these parts, load them in the car, and we are gonna reconvene this building session at the shop. So basically just chucking it all in there. I'm kind of surprised that I got a whole block and cylinder head in the BMW. Yeah, it's a S13 coupe just like yours, set the trunk and everything.
Oh. Jerem, what are you doing?
There we go, that's about right. The trick is you don't want to go like too fast or too slow while you're doing this. You want to get like a nice angled crosshatch so the piston rings can seat to the cylinder wall. Basically we're just honing this really quick. He's using a standard size piston, but we want to make sure that when we assemble it, that it has like enough, I don't know what you call it, like grit essentially, to like fit the ring to the hole. That way you don't end up burning oil like right away. So just a little ball honing helps a ton. Okay, so we're in the middle of building this motor, and I realized after putting bearing lube on, and I was about to set that crankshaft in there, that the oil squirters, one of them was actually broken off. They're these little things. They basically go in the bottom of the motor, they squirt a little bit of oil on the side of the cylinder wall, and normally it's an okay thing for a stock motor, but the thing is, I really want to rev this motor a little bit higher, and he had a broken one anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and block them off, and it'll help raise the oil pressure of the motor. Plus, with you know, the pistons spinning around and the crank flinging oil anywhere, like it's gonna lubricate the cylinder wall just fine. I kind of feel like this was an old engine thing. They only did it for a few years in like the late 90s, and they kind of don't do it anymore because it's totally not needed. But anyway, we'll get our ring fitment and everything the way we want it, and I just I like doing it this way. You can raise the oil pressure, which I think is so much more important, you know? Because nobody wants to spin a rod bearing. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep welding these off. I'm actually just welding them shut, and I'm gonna put them back in kind of like where they were stock. Let me see if you can see this really quick. So there's one of them that's welded off. I just, where it was broken, I just filled it with a little bit of like aluminum fill. And there's one that I'm going to cut off with this little guy. And then we just go ahead and block it off, and the oil pressure goes up. So as you can see, the oil squirters kind of go down here in the bottom of the cylinder, and normally they would just squirt along the cylinder wall, but now that they're deleted, you know, they just won't do that. And our oil pressure will be higher. So we're gonna go ahead and install the other two and tighten them down, then we can finally set the crankshaft in. See how that goes. Okay, so I just got done assembling that SR20. We gotta take the machine shop over the cylinder head like on Monday or whatever, but we got this little guy all wrapped up in plastic so it can stay clean in the meantime. and pretty much I'll just be back on the Raven car for the next like couple days. So I didn't probably get as far on it as I wanted, but as you can tell, the manifold's finished up just enough for the turbo to be like sitting in its proper location more or less. I just have to bolt it up. But we started working on some of the oil lines, and we're really close. You know, we've got to fit the oil pressure line, but the valve covers are resealed back up, thank goodness, and the spark plugs are gapped down, the injectors are all installed, and the clips are on, everything's wired. So everything in the motor area is pretty much taken care of. And now we just need to, you know, build the downpipe, make sure the boost piping can connect to the intake and put the MAF back in, and probably figure out what we're going to do with an oil catch can and that kind of a thing. So that's what we'll be doing next week. But so far I'm happy with how it's coming out. I think we just got to keep pushing through until we get all the boost done. And I can't actually wait to get it on the dyno. That's my favorite part, obviously. Like, I mean, it's fun to do all this fab, but once you get it all assembled and it starts up and sounds cool and then starts to make power, that's where it gets really exciting. So, okay, Saturday I'm gonna go home, I'm gonna edit this film, and then I'll see you guys in a couple days.